Hey and welcome, I'm Hammeh, and in this video I'll be going through my personal top 5 main Overwatch lore and story mysteries that hopefully we'll get answers to in the future. Overwatch is less than a year old, so naturally there are plenty of questions about the story and wider universe yet to be told, or perhaps yet to be written. These are more main story and plot points rather than focusing on any individual hero stories, but I'll definitely come back to those in another video. And number 5, what is Talon's plan? Talon, if there's a single big bad evil guy or otherwise in the Overwatch universe, seem to be the closest thing we have to it so far. Their spread of activity is wide-ranging, from assassinating Omnic leaders, trying to steal super weapons, raiding trains, attempting to steal artifacts from the ruins of Ilios, being active in Egypt potentially, trying to steal something from the Anubis AI facility or Helix Securities, that's assuming Reaper and Sombra went off on a solo mission, and most recently attempting to kill key figures in the fight against Omnics, Katya Volskaya of Volskaya Industries, although Sombra messed that one up a little bit. All of this seemingly with no challenge from any local law enforcement or military. Long story short, Talon have a lot of fingers in a lot of pies and are acting on a very wide basis. And some rather scary technology and techniques, considering they turned Amelie Lacroix into Widowmaker and got her to kill her husband Gerard in his sleep. There are some themes to how Talon act. Causing trouble between Omnics and humans, and the relationship between them seems to be a key one, as well as getting rich and getting more power and weaponry. Kind of standard for any kind of terrorist organisation. What is their endgame, and who, if anyone, is the mastermind or masterminds behind them? How is Doomfist involved with them? The Scourge Doomfist or otherwise? Reaper does, after all, say that
Doomfist should do his own dirty work.
I've gone into Talon in a lot of detail in my Lore Bites episode, link below. Hopefully we'll discover more about them as an organisation in the future. They feel very key to the ongoing story of Overwatch, as well as where several of the main characters have come from. At number 4, the mystery of what was responsible precisely for Overwatch's downfall. It's not a commonly known fact about Overwatch's story, but there are a few blogs out there showing that there was a big cloud over Overwatch before it was actually disbanded. Overwatch was accused of a lot of things in its later years, and some pretty bad things came out about it in a UN inquiry seemingly, after the organisation's Swiss headquarters was destroyed. Firstly, there were rumours, and for these two blogs, by the way, you should check Fading Glory, On the Trail of Jack Morrison, and Overwatch is Back, both available on the official Overwatch website. The rumours were of Black Ops missions, carrying out tasks like assassination and kidnapping, and these were apparently dismissed by the public to start with as paranoid fantasies. However, it appears that whatever continued to happen, Overwatch wasn't very responsive to it publicly, causing even more issues. As time passed, criticism became harder to shrug off, and the agency seemed to be tone deaf to public concerns. Controversial missions stoked public outrage until it reached a fever pitch, and some of Overwatch's most famous and celebrated agents were apparently forced to retire in disgrace. Who were these agents, and what had they done wrong or otherwise? We know, for example, that Reinhardt faced mandatory retirement in his late 50s, and we have no reason for him to think it was anything other than an honourable discharge. But there are many Overwatch agents we've seen in art and otherwise we don't know the fates of. If they were famous and celebrated, did they actually do something wrong, or did they take the fall or blame for another reason? Liao, for example, one of the original strike team, we don't know their whereabouts, or even much about them entirely, as well as some people like Kimiko, Mirimbe, and others. Finally, the revealing of Blackwatch, Overwatch's special operations unit, caused mistrust in Overwatch's final years. There were stories of assassination, coercion, kidnapping, torture, negligence resulting in high-profile mission failures, corruption and mismanagement, weapons proliferation, human rights abuses, and more. That's a pretty big and devastating catalogue of wrongdoing. Finally, from McCree's biography, we know that apparently rogue elements within Blackwatch sought to bring down the organisation and turn it to their own ends. Overwatch was dismantled due to overwhelming negative public sentiment and allegations of corruption as well as abuse of power. So all of these sources, bar McCree's bio, are Atlas News. We don't know how reliable the news organisation and Olympia Shaw are as a source and an author. For example, are they a sensationalist news broadcaster or perhaps a more balanced one? Shaw does point out that the veracity of the allegations levelled against Overwatch years ago remain a point of contention. Some historians and political pundits have questioned the motivations of those who first made the corruption charges against the group. So at least Atlas News does encourage us to question the sources as well. Now, there are a lot of different factors that could be responsible for the downfall of Overwatch here. Talon, Blackwatch, any rogue elements within Blackwatch, Reyes, whose agenda remains unknown, and perhaps any other external players or factors. The story of how Overwatch began to be mired in these allegations is a very interesting one, and key to understanding where the organisation went wrong, as well as how it fell. At number 3, what exactly happened at the Swiss headquarters? All we know is from an anonymous source, and we still don't know of course who that is. Someone apparently shared classified UN briefings and some other data. There was apparently a UN cover-up attempt, as they called it an accident, and they steadfastly maintained that there was no foul play. However, the expose by Atlas News apparently indicated that a rebellion tore the group apart from within. On one side was Morrison, determined to hold together what remained of Overwatch. On the other side was Reyes, whose agenda remains unknown. A battle raged between these men deep within the Swiss headquarters, and at some point, the fighting triggered an explosion that destroyed the facility. Whatever happened on this day is a tough story to tell, but it would give us several clues as to how Overwatch fell, and also a lot about the two main protagonists involved. Why is Reaper the way he is? Was this day anything to do with it? The argument between the two would surely give us clues as to what caused Overwatch's downfall if the two were indeed fighting. It also could tell us a bit about the morality of Morrison and Reyes, along with their different causes and ideas. Did Morrison leave Reyes to die? Were there others present that day that Reaper would also blame when he said to Ana in Old Soldiers, "They left me to suffer"? It's probably not the longest moment in time, this could have taken place over minutes, but the story of what happened could tell us so much about the past and future of Overwatch, as well as the motivations and thoughts of many people involved with it. I'd love to see that as a story, who knows, it's a really tricky one to tell. I think that could be a comic in future, but let's wait and see. At number 2, what caused the first Omnic crisis, and who is behind the second? Now, these are clearly very key events in the Overwatch world. 30 or so years ago, the first Omnic crisis gripped the world, this defining event in Overwatch's past. It caused devastation all around the globe. In the aftermath of it, countries took years to recover. Over the 2 decades of which Overwatch kept a kind of golden peace over the world before its downfall in its later years, a lot of new powers and corporations also sprung up too. Now, at the moment, we don't know for sure any why or how for the first or second Omnic crisis. If it's known in universe as common knowledge, well, that's not been shared with us in any blogs or lore so far. Olympia Shaw of Atlas News comes closest to discussing it in a few news articles and blogs, but she doesn't mention the reason specifically. So, at a guess, and this is complete speculation, it's either really common knowledge in Overwatch's universe and history, so common that she doesn't need to state it in an article, or maybe it's kind of unknown to people still. There is a hint to that in this particular newspaper article that we can see in a brief image discussing the Detroit Omnium. So what could it be? Well, we've speculated a lot of things before. God AIs perhaps are involved somehow, as hinted in Farah's comic, mission statement. Perhaps the First Strike panels and this mysterious man that were shown at San Diego Comic-Con 2016. First Strike, the graphic novel, has since been cancelled, so who knows, maybe we'll get a different story in future. Talon, perhaps, or other organisations. There are, of course, a lot of big businesses, and of course, Omnica Corporation, who revolutionised robotic manufacturing apparently until Omniums, their massive automated construction machines and self-improving software AI facilities, were actually shown to not be making the output levels that they'd originally promised. After evidence of fraud was uncovered, there's a whole organisation that was shut down because of this. Could anyone from Omnica potentially be involved in the reactivating of the Omniums? Let's not forget, of course, that there's actually a second Omnic crisis happening in the world right now. Who's behind it and what's going on with it? Given that apparently 15,000 or so people were dead as per the events of Recall, the news broadcast Winston is watching is to be believed, that's a reasonable amount of people, but of course it all depends on the time frames. It seems to be all over the world, as shown by these different countries, but the Overwatch world at the moment, just the feel that we've had so far, doesn't feel in full-on crisis. We've had hints of it in terms of Winston in his Are You With Us trailer. It feels as though there's a lot going on, but we're not quite sure what extent or how serious it is. But maybe that's just me. Either way, the causes of the different Omnic crises are going to be huge points as to how Overwatch moves forward, as well as telling us about its past. Number 1 for me, and it's a recent one, who really runs the world, according to Sombra or not? This is one big question that might cover all of the above and more. In Sombra's origin trailer, as of November 2016, we saw Sombra investigating the forces who came after her when she was younger, in a connected web of events, information and individuals that all lead to a mysterious eye-like symbol at its centre. Is it a person, an organisation, a god AI, perhaps an Omnic force or otherwise? We have no idea at the moment whatsoever, but all we know is that somehow it's got influence over technology and could find Sombra, and also Sombra deems it a big enough threat that she's pretty much devoted her life in an obsessive way to trying to discover more about it and to try and hunt it down. I've speculated about this and analysed this image in so much detail in my separate Sombra conspiracy video, linked below, and I really can't wait to see how this progresses in future. This image alone could be a massive map for loads of different parts of Overwatch's story and give us loads of cool things to see in future as the lore progresses. There you go. 5 big questions certainly about Overwatch's past, present and future story that I think would be fascinating to explore. Now remember, of course, we're at the very beginning of what will hopefully be a many-year journey with Overwatch, so there's plenty of time for all of the above to be answered and many more new cool stories and questions to be started as well. It'll be worth the wait, even if you're a slightly impatient person like me and you'd love to know it all right now. What are your big questions or mysteries about Overwatch's world, story and characters that you'd love to discover more about as the story continues? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Cheers for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, I do Overwatch hero lore, interactions, voice lines, map lore, everything to do with the story in as much detail as is possible. Do check out the playlists here to check out a bit more. If you like this video, please do throw a like, subscribe maybe for more vids in the future, and comment in the comments below with any questions or thoughts you have about Overwatch's lore. I'll try my best to get to them. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.